Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Please have a seat. Please come next to me so I can feel more energy. Welcome, everyone. Who is here for the first time? Nice. Okay. A lot of newbies. That's cool. So my name is Cyril. I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm part of the AI user group. So we do events. We do a lot of events. Our goal is to train professionals on the latest AI tools. To do that, we have meetups. So this meetup is running almost every week. We do meetups for marketing, design, and AI engineering. We also have one conference once a year. It's the AI User Conference. It's going to be in April at Fort Mason. And we're going to start some workshops with Tom. He's going to be our first instructor, so we'll know more about this opportunity a little bit later. And also hackathon. So by being part of our community, you will hear about all these events soon. All right, so that's the agenda for tonight. We'll start with Tom. He's going to present how to develop personas in ChatGPT for UX design. Then John will present what a product designer learned from using AI to make music video. It's going to be very interactive and fun. And then it's going to be open mic. So we have a tradition here. At the end of the event, it's the stage is yours. So you can come here and present for a minute whatever you want, whatever you find interesting. Usually people present like job opportunities. So if you are hiring, great, come and share it. But also if you are looking for a job, it's also a great way to present it right before networking. Also, if you are working on something cool, if you are working on a new project and you're looking for better users, come and present that as well. What else? So we are closing the venue at 8:50. Keep this in mind while you are eating the pizzas. All right, and then the call for speakers. Very important slide. I need you guys. So if you are working on something cool, can be your own tool, of course. If you want to demo your own tool, you're more than welcome. But if you are working using AI in the context of design and you are working on something interesting, please let me know and you can come here and be on the other side. Also, if you worked on something and it didn't work out the way you wanted, it's also a very interesting talk, so please share it with us. That will be cool. Now, let's talk about developing personas in ChatGPT.
Well, you guys are working on getting my presentation up. This is me. Oh, I need to talk into this. It's going to be hard to get the habit right. I teach at the University of Maryland, but I live out here in California, so I teach remotely. And I teach UX. And actually, right now, I'm finishing up a semester teaching about generative AI for UX. So just did 15 weeks of that, and I'm condensing a piece of 30 minutes for you guys. So I'm really excited about personas in particular because personas are a superpower of ChatGPT, and it totally transforms how personas are used for UX design, in my view. And I'm waiting for the slide. This is not up there. Oh. There we go. All right, so let's see if you see my pointer. Yes, you see my pointer. So I'm trying not to look there because I will not be speaking in the microphone. These birds, they're representing personas. And so I just wanted to start there. This is the non-AI view of personas. The birds are all in the same target audience. They're all birds, but they all look completely different. They each have their individual personality. And that's what personas is about, is understanding some individual personalities and sort of working through the needs of individual users. And I'm going to be talking fast. I have a lot of exciting slides, and I'm going to try to get through all of them really fast. First of all, this is my general philosophy, and it's that using AI to do design is not primarily about a specific technology like ChatGPT, although the technology matters and you need to learn your technology. Actually, most of the prompts I share with you, I've had students try in Claude in particular, and it works quite well in Claude. Image generation seems to then not be feasible there. But in any case, it's not really about a specific technology, but the fact that this technology exists at all allows us to think about how to do reasoning for design. And so really, using AI is about understanding how we reason about design. And the goal then is to amplify our reasoning with these tools. So that's my general framework. This is the big project I work on, which is I'm trying to understand how to reason across the entire design process with AI. And so these are just some snippets in the design process of just examples of all the things you can that can benefit from AI. And basically everything is my conclusion. Everything you do, there's a way that AI can help. Sometimes it helps a lot, and sometimes it helps a little, but it actually adds value at every stage of design. As he mentioned, I'm teaching this workshop on February 7th here, I guess, location-wise here. And it's really about this entire design process with a focus on user research and personas, so applying that through the whole design process. This is the URL for that. I'll have that again at the end of the talk, and we might have a QR code at some point. Yeah. So just to start, what's a persona? So this is a guy looking at his personas he's created. A persona is a fictional description of a specific person in your product's target audience. It's used to have empathy, so you really can sort of learn about people as individuals instead of talking about statistics across your audience. So it's not like, oh, 60% of men and 40% women. It's like, here's a guy and here's a girl, and this is what we're going to be doing with these individuals. It's considering their goals, their reasons, their decisions, behaviors, and pain points. So it's really trying to understand deeply why people are doing what they're doing. And then the final goal is to anticipate their product needs. So how do design decisions affect them? And that helps you make design decisions. So that's what a persona is. This little graphic down here is what a persona often looks like on paper. But in any case, it can look a lot of different ways. This is a really simple design process. I had a really complicated spaghetti process that once I actually simplified it and clarified it, it comes out really easy. So you create a persona on the left. There are 3 ways that you might do that. The 2 top ones are the ways they're currently done. You either do some user research and understand your users and base your personas based on that. And by the way, I'm going to show you some more concrete personas in the next couple slides, so you'll see that. The second example is a manual persona called a proto-persona. This is where you just kind of guess, like, this is what I think a representative user in my target audience would be like. And that's actually quite common that people make these proto-personas. And you can imagine, because you're not actually basing it on user data, there's a lot of uncertainty in creating those. And then the last one is AI generated, and I'm going to make the case today that AI generated is really compelling, and it's better than the proto-persona when you just do it manually. You can combine it with user research, so you can do some user research, tell the AI the results, and you'll get even better personas from the AI when you give it the data. So anyway, you create a persona, you do various activities with that persona and get some insights from it. You derive design implications, and then you make some final design choices based on the range of design implications there were, design ideas there were. And I mentioned there's cycles in all of these. You keep iterating and improving or repeating. And in the list of design implications, you'll often find you can generate hundreds of design implications, and so a lot of it is filtering through that. I guess if you have a lot of ChatGPT experience, you know that you can get too much information, And that's a lot of the effort, is making sure you filter through that or cluster the ideas. This is a basic example persona. And by the way, slow me down if I'm going crazy, because I feel like I'm talking fast. But if I don't think yet there's any big surprises. So here's some example personas. This is for a smart cup design. This is assuming you've already explained in the thread with ChatGPT what your smart cup design project is about. But then you just say, make a text table for 3 personas for smart cup design. List their philosophy, their goals, and their pain points and opportunities. I'm trying to point here. My pointer isn't working. I'll point this way then. So anyway, it makes this table, and this table lists the 3 users across the top, and then it's got their philosophy, goals, pain points, and opportunities. And I'm not going to be reading through all the text here. Again, with ChatGPT, there's tons of text that comes out, so I'll call out a highlight or 2 on many of these slides, but leave it to the reader to sort of try it out yourself and see. But this actually is really good right off the bat. So the very first thing it does with a minimal prompt is very helpful. You get to learn about 3 types of users. There's a ritualist. So this is the top one. And by the way, right after this prompt, you ask it to illustrate them. So you get Emily at the top. She's doing her morning ritual with her coffee. And Jack in the middle, he's the functionalist. He commutes with his drink and he doesn't want it to spill. So he's very much about just, getting through the day with his drink. And then at the bottom is Mia. My glasses are wrong here. Yep, Mia. And Mia is, doing her workouts with her smoothie. So you learn what their pain points are, and you learn certain opportunities at the bottom are opportunities for what you can do in your product. So this is the very basic persona. It doesn't even have as much information as you might put in one. I'll show you some with more. But you already, if I just ask list the personas and list some pain points, I've got something useful. If I ask it to say, now help me fix those pain points, it goes that next step, and that's useful. The rest of this talk is showing you all sorts of other things you can do with that. But this is the foundation. So this is one next step. So you can go to the next step and say, make a table of the personas with key product insight questions. And so across the top, it's, I don't have a good way to point, but in any case, across the top, it's listing product insight questions. It made them up. It knows what the product is that I'm talking about, and it knows what the personas are, and it just says these are some top product insight questions we'd ask them, and then those are the answers they gave. And so what would make a smart cup indispensable? For instance, Jack says it needs to have spill-proof portability, quick temperature adjustments, and durability. So great. So each of these questions is giving you some different insights into how to approach your product. There's a set of things in these tables that you might want to document. This in the black down at the bottom is the standard sort of most common things you see in a persona often. So there's demographics, a representative quote, their goal, motivation, pain points. Those are all very standard, and all of these are. This prompt helps you sort of decide which characteristics you want to capture in each of your personas. And in fact, it says, I boldface some of the key points, so it lists the key characteristics, but then the other main point is domain-specific attributes. So you're trying to get something that's relevant to your domain. So if I was building a fitness app, I might want to document for each persona what kind of fitness activities does each persona do. If I was selling cars, I'd want to ask, what kind of car do you drive and what do you do in your car and things like that. So getting some domain-specific attributes is nice as well, and you might have to do some iteration with this prompt to just ask for more specific ones. Okay, well, so what I just presented to you was the normal persona stuff, like everything you've ever seen before in personas. The rest of this talk is about the new stuff, the really cool stuff you can do with ChatGPT. And I should have titled the talk ChatGPT Superpowers, because personas are really awesome in ChatGPT. And so these are the, the 6 superpowers I want to talk about: the contextual accuracy, tailored images, versatile applications, breadth, depth, and scale. I'll walk through all of these. And so I'll start. This is my main overview slide. This covers the persona superpowers of ChatGPT. So contextual accuracy. The really interesting question is, if you just ask ChatGPT to make personas, are those any good? And when it says, Jack did this, Jack said that, is that any good? And the answer is, it's actually really good. It's not perfect, but it's much better, in my view, than a human would normally do at making these up. And I'll explain why here. But it's also almost as good as doing the user research directly. So I put a little citation here at the bottom. That's a social science paper that looked at simulating people in ChatGPT. This particular paper is an overview. They cover many other research studies. So if you don't believe me, there's all the evidence laid out in this paper. An example is they found that the results of simulating a study with personas in ChatGPT have a 0.8, what does it say, 0.86 correlation. That's 86% common with doing the study itself on real humans. A 0.86 correlation is a really great correlation, so it's really good at providing very good results that are similar to actual humans when it simulates. So why is that true? ChatGPT trains on data across the internet. It's trained on books, it's trained on blogs, discussion boards, product reviews, press reports. It trains on company websites. It trains on other user studies. So it's already learned results of user tests, tens of thousands at least probably of user tests. And it learns from academic articles, from courses, from people's design portfolios. And so it really actually has a ton of data to base its projections on. And it can combine its knowledge of design methods, its domain knowledge, how people live their lives, and knowledge of similar products, and it combines all that to get really great accuracy. Now, when I say really great accuracy, it's not perfect. When you ask it to use a persona to project something, I call it informed speculation. It's well informed, but you can have biases. You can have sometimes very shallow things. You can have things where it's misunderstood your questions. So you really do need to review what it's giving and then tell it if it's wrong and ask it to fix things. And so sometimes you'll just reject something outright and say that wasn't a good suggestion. But the quality is quite good, and so after your editing, you'll typically have a really good result. So the rest of these I actually have separate slides for, so I'm going to go through the rest of the list really fast. Tailored images. The fact that you can make images of your personas that are really more detailed and more compelling in the context they present. Breadth means there's a lot of different types of personas you can develop. Depth means you can get a ton of detail, so much more information about an individual person than you'd ever have. So you can have as much detail as you want. You can do scale, which by that I mean just large numbers of personas, and I'll go through that. And it helps you not overlook certain points of view. And so it's actually really inexpensive to go through a lot of different personas. And then it has versatile applications, so a lot of uses of your persona. I'm going to go on to the next example. I'll start with images. So to generate images, you can just say, draw an image of this persona. And the way you can make it accurate is the first part where it says make sure your text description is helpful. So make sure you sort of clarified the person. So role, their age, their gender, ethnicity, clothing, props, context. And then this is an example picture, and it got the product into the image as well. So this product is an entryway display. This guy is in Tokyo, leaving his apartment. He sees a train schedule and temperature and various other stats as he's exiting his apartment. So that's what I want to say is special about these images is a lot of people make personas which are just like a picture of a head. And the picture of the head doesn't help much at all. And you might as well not have a picture. It tells you what their hair color is and whether it's male or female maybe, but it's not really getting much across. And I hope you can see, right, just looking at this image, that you can really understand the context of your product being used by that person much more deeply, much more intimately. The whole context is there, the props, you can see his shoes lying by the door, you see how he's dressed. You're really getting a ton of context, and that helps you use it more effectively to sort of query this persona to really have a sense of what does it mean for this person to have this product. So the text description helps get all of those details in. You should generate multiple alternatives, like generate multiple images of the same persona, because some of these images don't turn out right. You all know that when you've used image generation, you'll end up with something wrong in the image. So I generally do at least 3, maybe 6 if I want to really find one that fits. But I would argue, like, don't get disillusioned. I've had students who are like, that takes so long. And I'm like, well, if you had to draw it yourself, it would take a lot longer than generating 6 and then choosing one. So it's not long at all. And it's worth the time to get the right image. These are just some prompting tips I wrote down here. So first of all, you just say draw the personas, but I usually say draw John 3x, and that does it 3 times. I never had to explain 3x, it just seems to know what I mean by that. I also say 1 by 1, because if I don't say 1 by 1, it tends to draw 3 pictures all in one picture, and then you get all sorts of weirdness going on, where it'll combine multiple images, and so one person has the arm from the other person or something weird like that. So I try to do them as separate images, and I just say 1 by 1, that does it. I also say diverse, and that helps. It does generate more diverse images as a result, but often I need to say how it's diverse. Like one of the biases I've noticed is it tends to show all young people. Almost always when I draw people, they end up as young people. So if I want an old person, I have to say diverse ages, and that doesn't always fix it because then it's like 20 to 40. Thanks, that's still young people. I have to say young and old, and you might have to go back and forth a bit to get the diversity you're after. And I actually believe that diversity is really important, and the images help you make sure your original data, your original personas actually were varied, because often they're not. So when you generate it in text, it also has that bias in the text where the ages are often very young. I don't understand why it does that. You'll give it an age range and it'll still make them all young. So you'll catch that and then you can fix it. And once you draw them, it's usually easy to catch a lot of these issues. So I believe in making these images. They don't cost much in your time, and they help make it memorable. They make it more presentable. I think you'll see in just this talk, the fact that you get to see the images makes them much more easy to understand and work with. I wanted to give you some styles. Actually, let me go back a slide. Yeah. When I just ask for a persona, it seems like this woman comes up a lot. So, and this style comes up a lot. And so my students were telling me, like, I don't want to generate all these images and they all look the same. And I'm like, I get it. So I'm helping you out here. I'm going to give you some styles you can try to get some variation. So first of all, if you actually give a lot of specifics about the person, talk about, like I said, age, ethnicity, gender, but also what they're wearing. By the way, you've got to say what they're wearing, because otherwise they all wear like nice clothes. They're all very fashionable, unless you ask it to have other types of clothing. You talk about what they're carrying with them and things like that. That makes it unique already. But then you can choose some of these styles. And so I've put the list of ones I'm showing here. All of these were ones I thought had some value in different circumstances. There's a bean person, a stick figure. The stick figure doesn't look like a stick figure, but good enough. I really like claymation. I really like the 3D rendered models. There's the photographic one, which is a common one you'd go to. Chibi is cute. So it's all kind of what market you're in. The sticker sheet, which is on the bottom left, is a particularly helpful one because everyone's got this white outline often, and that makes it easy for you to cut it out and then use it more flexibly as a designer. So I found sticker sheets to be pretty helpful. All right, let me talk about breadth. This is, now we're starting into the really exciting aspect. So typically when you do personas, you only do the first item in this whole list. You recognize the main user segments among your target users. And that's all you're going to generate personas for. And typically you generate something like 4 to 8 personas because you don't have time to do more, and you don't have time to figure them out or time to figure out what they mean for your design. But you actually have a lot more time to do that because it's all just a prompt or two to get to it. And now you can do all sorts of different types of personas. So I mentioned a variety of primary user segments. These are different ways of dividing up your market. You can look at some extreme users, an accessibility panel for disabled users. You can divide it by roles, for example. So those are all great, but now you can do a variety of other things. I have special purpose ones, and I'll talk about one on the next slide, but this would include like prospective users, so they're not currently a user, but they might be, or historically excluded users, so people who have been traditionally excluded, not having access to your product, and then you can look at ways to get them involved. So there's a variety of special purposes. There are abstract examples. So for instance, creativity roles, where you have sort of the advisor creativity role versus the, person who brainstorms like crazy. So these are not necessarily representing a real person as much as sort of a way of thinking about creativity. So that's a kind of abstraction. You can talk about your stakeholders, and so you can talk about your development team, other designers on your team. The workers as stakeholders turns out to be, I think, a really good one because usually the workers, so like if you're designing for a retail store, you often think about the retail customers, but it's the salespeople also need to have access to your system, and they need to be happy with it. And so that often sort of is treated as sort of second and not considered right away, and they end up having a bad user interface because they weren't treated as a first-class user. And now you can easily sort of make personas for them and include it in your process. I have some interesting advisor examples, and then you can pick any kind of fictional character, or I have celebrities, or I even have an animal here. So the dog is a persona, and that made a dog user interface. And this is actually, it was actually good exercise because it made pretty good dog toy ideas. So all of those are options. Here's a good example of a specialized kind of persona. This is called a malicious persona. So these are bad actors. These are people who would be using your system, but not in a way you want. So this example is with a bus stop kiosk. And so these are all people who would come and cause trouble, like Vandal Victor, scam artist Sid, fake info Fred, all these types of people. Thief Thiel is at the bottom. So they're all causing you scams. And what's nice here is the table shows you ways in which they would misuse your kiosk, and then things you can do in your design to prevent the problems. And obviously, you can go the next step and make more specific designs. This is just the first cut where it's just listing the main ideas. But then you can ask it to like turn those design implications into concrete, specific design changes. And that's the exact phrasing I normally give it is give me another column that gives me concrete, specific design changes to the current design. The other thing about this is I deliberately drew them as these stuffed animals. I call it knitted stuffed animals. Because actually it makes a lot of sense here, where you don't want to draw real people for the malicious personas. You don't want to associate the physical form of a person with being the malicious actor, right? So this is a really good case of using a substitute cartoon or stuffed animal to sort of play that role. And so it is stereotyping rats as scam artists, but I think that's okay. So that's malicious. Oh, and here's a close-up of Vandal Victor. And actually, after I did that basic exercise, I asked it to summarize the key design considerations, and so I get a nice summary at the end of all the things we'd want to try to tackle to deal with these malicious actors. And what I love about this too is it actually, often we don't get production quality out of the image generation, but to me, this is high quality presentation level output, so I'm really happy with it. Here's another example of a special audience. It's called guest speakers. I'm a guest speaker today, so this is interesting, but you can basically create any persona you want. You can create any human that somehow is involved with your product in any way. And so here I asked, can we have the design team get some guest speakers to come and talk about their role in society and how that has implications for the Smart Cup design. And so I'll just point out the second one is Chef Andre Leclerc. The chef actually, you can see he's got a cup in his hand and he's layered the liquids in different colors. And so he talks about, as a chef, how he deals with both the nuanced tastes of the drinks, but also the visual elements that make the drinking experience more exciting. And so this is actually so cool if you read the details, because each of these speakers gave some good insights into how to approach the product design. And this is just with 5 speakers. You can generate, 100 if you want. You can get a lot of guest speakers in and get their inputs about it. And then, so what I had them do, and by the way, the prompts for it are at the top. I know it's too small to read probably. Well, actually, you can read it better than I can. It's so big up there. But in any case, I asked for guest speakers. I asked it to draw them. I asked it to make a table. The table has the speakers' themes, what it means for the design. And then the last prompt asked for the team to do ideation based on the speaker's presentation. And so at the bottom, you have ideas your design team created based on that speaker. This is a way of generating ideas. And it's a very unique way of generating ideas that gets you into new spaces of ideas. And I feel like actually it's not far from actually having a real guest speaker. You're not going to walk away from a real guest speaker with a lot of ideas, but you tend to have a few. And actually, if you want more, you can have it generate more and more and more. And so you can get long tables of ideas based on that speaker. Anyway, these are very exciting to me. I like them. Did I miss a slide? No. Okay, scale. So the next superpower is scale. So like I said, it's common if you're doing it yourself to make 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 personas, and it just gets unmanageable to do more today without AI. And with AI, if you really want to focus on a small number of people so you can sort of concentrate on exactly what those personas are about, you can do that. And so that's, you have an option to stay at that sort of typical scale. But then I have other levels. So I think a relatively small scale within ChatGPT is 9 to 12. And I'd recommend more rather than fewer, because more gives you a chance to not miss things. You really want to understand different parts of your audience, and getting 12 representatives of that will get you a lot more viewpoints, and you'll not miss something. And I call it a small scale because it's the sort of largest you can be where you can actually read every detail, where you're actually spending time sort of reading everything each persona had to say. But you can still do that with 12. You can go to the next level, which is like 20 to 40 personas. And this is exciting in its own way, because you won't really generally want to read everything each of those people say. But what you can do is make big tables, talk about what their pain points are, talk about what their reaction is to a specific design proposal, and then you'll get a whole lot of answers, and you can then rate those answers to see which ones have the most importance in your design. You can take averages of those answers. You can cluster them into groups of related answers. And so there's a variety of ways you can take that large set and condense it into something manageable to you. But the advantage of that large set is you're able to scan over a much larger range of different behaviors. So then you can also have very small panels, like one per role. So this is like a student, teacher, and parent. So each of those is a persona. Often I would just have many personas for each role, but you could have one for each role. And then you'd have a variety of specialist panels, which are whatever size they need to be. So accessibility is an example of that. Here's another way of approaching scale and a fun way of approaching the persona generation. So this creates 30 terse personas. They're very condensed. And I used emojis to make it faster. So we're not actually going to need to generate pictures of these people because we got their emojis on the left. And you're able to represent with emojis quite a wide variety of people. So for instance, emojis have gender and skin color options, and you can have different ages. And so you can actually sort of set these demographic profiles and represent them in those emoji pretty well. I have flags for country. I have their favorite food and their favorite hobby at the end. So this is a way to get, like, to see that you can have a larger set of people and really not take up a lot of space to sort of review that. And I'll talk in a moment about why you would do that, but this is just to get the point across that you can. Right, so persona panels, I talk about them as panels. It's a group of people that are in a set that you're looking at together. And on the left, we see like a visualization of a larger panel. Normally, drawing these larger panels doesn't work very well, but this one turned out okay. So a large panel still lets you sort of see what individual needs are, but avoids missing somebody. And like I said, you can rate, sort, filter, cluster. You can do different things to manage the output of a lot of people. Two tips for handling personas. One is you can ask it to remember a set of personas, and the word remember gets it to put it into memory. And so then it will be available even if you start a new thread. You'll be able to access the personas you generated. That becomes more possible if you've used the shorthand version of them. So you've got a condensed version it can remember, because if you've got a ton of text, it won't remember it all. So that's why I did the thing on the previous slide here, is you can get a condensed version that it can then bring to other threads. And so you can ask it to save the shorthand notation. I name the panels, so I have panel A or accessibility panel or worker panel. And then in the future, you can just say, like, who was my worker panel again? And it'll list them out again. And then you can say, okay, I want to work with them this time. Again, here I have another version of summarizing the personas. So you get to choose how you want to summarize it, and it just has a little template at the very bottom that shows what format I want. And in this case, I wanted it very condensed. And so in the gray panel on the left, you've got that sort of most condensed version of this set of personas. All right. This is an example of a large panel, and this is also, everything I've got here for you is exciting for me, so this is also exciting. I was working on a design of an app that taught the language of social activism. So like speak truth to power, that's a slogan of social activism. And I wanted it to introduce social activism around the world and the way people speak about it. And so that's the app I was working on. This is just a sample app for school. Social activism is sort of ethically something you have to sort of be very careful with. You have to think about the politics and the cultural issues. And so I wanted sort of ethical viewpoints from around the world to give me input into the product design. And so I created a global ethics panel. And this, you see their pictures here. And so these are thought leaders and moral thought leaders from around the world. And I can make a panel out of them and then ask them for ideas about ethics. And it's really interesting as a result. And on the next slide, this is the prompt I had for it. It's imagine a panel of 12 personas of moral and thought leaders of our global society and then I doubt you can read the smaller ones, but in any case, I asked them to comment on the global goal, the collective goals of humanity for your product, the bold aspirations for your product, their concerns, and then to build all that into a set of requirements. So it's a set of simple prompts. One thing I got out of it was this table on the left. It shows the names of the personas, and I actually asked for each person's unique contribution, so I'd sort of see what each individual persona had to say that was different than the others. But I'm just giving you snippets of the results, so there's their bold aspirations and the final requirements that came out of it. And it gives you a really insightful set of ethical issues that I couldn't get any other way. And in real world, we would never run this global ethics panel because we would never be able to find all these people, and we wouldn't be able to afford the cost of it or the time of it. So it's just, it gives you some really good insights that are grounded in people from around the world. It may not be perfect, but it's not possible to do otherwise, so it's really helpful. My next superpower is depth. So you don't have to, like I said, you can make 40 people in your persona panel, but you might decide, that's not how I like to think. I don't want to just quantify a whole lot of them. I actually want to drill down into a single one and think about that. So you can pick one. And so I picked Dr. Amina Khalid here, and she does legal advocacy training for people in her community. And so I asked for her inputs on what her personal needs would be, what the needs of her community would be for your product, how she thinks it would impact the world. And you can ask her whatever you want and go into as much depth as you want. And here I have it end with a summary of her input. And so if you don't read it all, you can jump to the summary and sort of see what the key points were. But this is for those who like to drill in deep and sort of understand all the nuances. My last superpower is versatile applications, all the things you can do with a persona. And so I won't read through them all, but you can, in various ways, understand them, find out the needs, ask the personas to be involved in collaborative design. You can have dialogues with them. You can literally say to ChatGPT, okay, I would now like to talk to, Dr. Amina Khalid. Can you please talk to me in her voice? And then you can just ask her anything and, ask her if she wants to play a game of tic-tac-toe, whatever you like. You can have that direct interaction as well. So that simulation in a dialogue is really cool. You can simulate user studies with them. You can talk about their process of how they use a product or how they do their current processes. And you can work on marketing strategy and messaging. There's probably several things under marketing strategy. That's not my focus, so I haven't gone into more. But in any case, there's a lot of ways you can use these. And then I give two examples at the bottom. One is a scenario. So that's a language learning app, and it's showing a guy at the airport using it. So you're seeing the scenario of a persona. And then at the bottom right, we were looking at pain points. So this is for a virtual fitting room. You see in the bottom right, a guy walks up to this screen and can sort of try on clothes. Anyway, the first two pain points are before he has the system, and so he's having trouble with finding the right size and waiting a long time. And on the right, it's after he gets the system, and he says it's not an ideal fit, so the system isn't working perfectly. So these are great ways to visualize pain points. Actually, the surprising thing is when you ask for visualizations of pain points, they're often very clear and compelling. So of all the things you can list pain points in text, but the visuals are nice caricatures of the pain points. All right, so now I just have a few example uses of it, and then I'll be done. So this is a walkabout. I call it a walkabout, but that's me just making up names. It's a scenario. And so the walkabout is just a long scenario. A scenario is just a place where you describe how somebody does something. And so I took a persona named Emma. I have her walk through this scenario. And so I can't read that text. I'm sure you can't. It's throughout her day. And she's using the Smart Cup throughout the day. And it's actually this was really successful in the sense that you can see different apps she would use on her cup throughout the day and gets value from that cup throughout the day. And then the second prompt asked for a summary, so that the larger text is a summary. You can see there were these 7 points in her day where she's interacting with the cup in a useful way. So that helps you work through the features of the cup and how they fit into her life. This is a debate. You can have fictional characters, and so at the bottom here I have Edna Mode from The Incredibles. Actually, her picture's on the left, but ChatGPT would not draw her real picture, and so I had to say someone inspired by her, so we get this other woman in the middle here. I didn't have to say someone inspired by Joker, it just kind of did Joker, so I don't know why Joker was allowed. But in any case, they're having a debate over design issues. This is fun, but actually the points they make are valid points in this particular debate, which is skeuomorphism versus flat design. If you read the details, you'll see that Joker is not representing his actual personality here. So you might have to tell ChatGPT, I don't think you got it right there. You need to redo Joker, because he'd want chaotic design, and he's not advocating for it, or at least overdone design. In any case, this is fun. It doesn't just give you 2 things. You can read a long debate and sort of see all these issues come out. And you can have more serious characters as well. I have debates with Socrates where it is interesting and philosophical, but you can choose a design leader and just have design leaders discuss things with her, or just individual designers as personas debating. And you can learn from that. So this is ideation. How do you come up with new ideas? There's a lot of different ideation approaches. In this particular one, we have 3 different designers, and I asked it to create a philosophy and style for each one. So one's about minimalism, one's about data, and the last is about exciting interactivity. And you have them talk amongst themselves about a particular design problem, and they contradict each other, and they add their own features. And in all fairness, the number 7 at the bottom of the is the final conclusion of their design. Whenever I run this prompt, they don't create good designs, but the process is what you want to read. You want to sort of hear those ideas and their reasoning, and then you can pull out ideas from that process. And I guess as designers, what I want to recommend about this is getting a represented designer with a certain philosophy and style is a great opportunity to engage with different ways of thinking about design, which if you're in a lucky situation on the job, you're working with designers who do that with you. But if you find yourself isolated, you might not get these conversations, and this is a way to get to them. This is an idea I call gratitude letters. It's kind of the equivalent of pain points. I take a set of personas, in this example, Maria. And Maria is a mom who's helping her daughter learn French. And so the mom is learning French as well in your app. And she's writing a gratitude letter saying what she appreciates in your design. And I call it sort of the flip side of pain points, because it's not the pain point, it's the solution. It's the thing you did to actually make her life better. And she's writing you this letter. Now you can decide whether you like the narrative and want to read the letter, but in any case, the prompt ends with a summary of what the main points were about what was good in the design. And so that's a really interesting way to use a persona to help identify something that was really useful. I think this is the last one, but we're almost done. This is another example. I've got millions of examples, and I tried to cram as many in as possible to give you inspiration of ways to use personas. These are mentors. So this is designers on your team and a mentor who came in to help them. And each mentor sort of has a skill they bring, and they have a discussion with your designer, and the table sort of identifies what you're learning from them. And actually at the bottom are some smart cup designs that the team made of mentor and mentee, and it reflects the ideas they came up with. Like the previous one, their ideas are not necessarily their final designs are not necessarily great, but the ideas they have in the process are often really good. Oh, and one more. So advocacy groups. This is a new way of thinking about a persona because each persona is a group. And so I asked it to create sort of categories of different audiences that represent different value systems related to the app. And so it's got all these different advocacy groups like the content creators, an ethical committee, accessibility advocates, and you can get all these people to give their different opinions about design. What was really interesting after I made the advocacy groups is, and this is way too small to read, but I asked them to identify where the advocacy groups were conflicting, where one group wanted something that the other group wanted the opposite. And that's what you want to learn. You'd like to identify that long before your product is done, that we're going to have trouble with this one, or if we design it this way, we're going to have trouble with that one. And ideally, then you try to resolve that and figure out what's the design that kind of gets accepted by everybody. So that's a really interesting way to simulate advocacy groups. And then this is my final slide. That's apparently me, because I had it draw me. It says generative AI design for UX. So that's me teaching my class, which I teach remotely, so it doesn't look anything like that. Anyway, oh, you slipped in the QR code when I wasn't looking. Good, so this is the QR code for the workshop I'll be presenting in February 7th. And yeah, that's it.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Do we have questions for Tom? We have time for maybe one question. So who is taking it? Yes.
Hi, that was great. I'm wondering, you seem to have quite a bit of detail in all the prompts and things like that. I'm curious about how you're keeping track of these and what kind of practical tools you're using in order to kind of feed these various prompts and keeping track of them. And is it just spreadsheets? Are you just a very organized person? How do you manage all that?
Maybe a spreadsheet would be better. I just put it all in a word processing doc, so I just have a list of prompts. But honestly, the wording of the prompts is not so critical to me. It's really just the idea that I could do it, and then it's easy to reproduce them. So like, if I want a set of mentors for personas, the main thing I'm trying to do is remember that that's a possibility, and try to figure out when I'd want to do it. But then for any given design problem, I'd probably rewrite the prompt anyway to sort of make it fit what I'm trying to accomplish. But yeah, I do keep them all in a big word processing doc. It's a couple hundred pages. So yeah.
All right, let's give Tom a round of applause. Thank you, Tom. Plenty of insights. And Tom will be available during networking if you have more questions. And now it's going to be John. He's here. He made it through SF traffic. Yes. I know, it's hell. Yes.
Is the sound hooked up?
I can.
Okay, great, because I'll play a little bit of something.
Plug that in.
Okay. Oh yeah, other side. I rarely use the old-fashioned audio jack.
Okay. Sorry.
Sweet. Am I okay to
Yes.
just since I'm a little taller?
Should be good.
Cool.
Okay. Whatever you see here, it's there, so you don't need to turn around.
Okay, perfect. Oh yeah,
Okay.
great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks to AI User Group for having me. My presentation today is what a product designer learned from using AI to make a music video. And so the product designer is me. I'm John. And the AI tools that I used that I'm going to be talking a bit about are Midjourney and Photoshop. And the music video I made was for the song Let Me Know What You're Feeling by The Guest and the Host. The Guest and the Host is a friend of mine, Andrew Herringer. He's been in a bunch of bands under different names, and right now he's using the moniker The Guest and the Host, and he's released a bunch of albums and stuff. But today, I'm going to be talking about mostly the AI side of things. I'm going to go through what we did with that music video and why we did it that way and what were the steps in that process, but I'm going to try my best to bring it all back to the AI side of things and what can be of use to all of you, because I think that's why you're here. You want to learn something valuable, and then a big thing for me is trying to give you suggestions for actual steps you can take, rather than just think about it and gain knowledge. I think it only matters if we actually use that knowledge. And so to start, I think one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people share the same questions and thoughts that I have had about AI, and just sort of have the same foundation. I kind of wanted to start there with a lot of the questions I had as recent as like a year ago or 2 years ago. For example, what does AI even mean? I feel like it's a buzzword that has a vague meaning depending on who's using it. Of course, this image is AI generated. This was made with Midjourney. I did something like a mysterious genie and a magic lamp, and so it was a little different than I expected, but this is kind of a silly representation of how I think sometimes AI is portrayed. It's this thing that can do anything, or someday it will be able to do anything. And the more I use it, I think, yeah, it's possible, but at least today I don't think it's this mysterious thing. But this is where I was, and I think a lot of people are. Another big thing I notice is everyone uses the word automation, especially in this town. I feel like half the people in San Francisco are founders starting something up, and when you ask what they do, it's like, oh, we're doing blank industry, and we're going to automate everything with AI. And it still can have some vagueness to it sometimes. Obviously, automation is real, and that's a valid, valuable part of AI. But I still think it's good to boil these things down to like, what can we actually use it for? What are we actually doing here? Another big thing for me, again, just to point out, another AI-generated image, which is a little funny because you can see their faces are a little funny. I think here I wrote like San Francisco startup founders shouting about automation, and it added T-shirt labels for them. But this is another really important one that I have felt before I did this project with Andrew, and still sometimes I feel this way. It's like it seems like everyone else gets it but me. When I was first starting this project, it was like you hear about these great promises or these sort of great fears about AI, and it seems like everyone else is in on it except me. And I've noticed that other people have felt that way about it. And then finally, like the last big question, since I'm a product designer, it's like, who's actually making these things? Because like whoever made ChatGPT for the first time or designed the interface for Gemini or any of these other AI products, it's like, why did these product designers get to innovate and make these tools first? Like, I want to be one of those people. And like, so what qualifies them to do it? Or what will qualify me to work on these things in the future? And so going back to the music video, just to dive in on that, I am an indie filmmaker. That's what I'd like to do outside of work. I've made some short films. And so I approached Andrew because I already knew of his music. I'm already a big fan of his. And music videos for filmmakers can be a great way to experiment visually because the sound is already set. And it's like a 4-minute piece. So sometimes you can go really wild or go really creative with the visuals. And so that can be a great opportunity for filmmakers to do something they otherwise wouldn't have the chance to do. So that's how this project kind of got started. And the idea behind it, it's a long story, but the end result of all these conversations, once Andrew had picked a song for me to direct a music video for, we narrowed in on doing a stop motion style animated piece using 35 millimeter photography film for Andrew, and then everything else, for the most part, like 95% of all the other visuals, generated by AI. And why did we use AI tools? It's the basic reasons. It was going to possibly speed up the process of creating the imagery I needed, because once I knew, you'll see it in a second, but when it comes to stop motion animation, it's sort of a collage style. So sometimes people will do it where they'll cut out clipping, like a picture from a magazine, and then they'll put a sticker, and then they'll put all these different mixed medias together. And for me, since I'm doing this outside of work, it's like, well, I don't think I have time to do all that, but seeing all these new AI tools, it was like, well, I think I could generate all these images I want if all I need are prompts. So it could create that was more the second point, but it could also speed up the process of creating those images and also creating images I might not be able to find on my own. And then finally, like, why did we want to do it? It's like, well, I like tech, so it's like, this is a great chance for me to try some of these AI tools that everyone's talking about. And so now going into the process, I started by receiving the song, I sketched the storyboard based on the song to go through it and be like, these are the visuals that I'm thinking of for your song. We took all the photos of Andrew on film, we edited them so that they could be, and it was on film, so they were developed, scanned, digitized, and then put together with some placeholder pieces, and then I added the AI art kind of last. But just to show you some examples of these visuals, so this is just like one rough drawing where I was using like stick figures, and I did a whole storyboard of, I don't know, 20 pages or something of different stick figures based on the song. And so then I went over to his house with one of my film cameras, and we ended up taking over 550 photos of him to do all of the animations that I knew I was going to need for all the parts of a music video. Edited them, basically removed the background to isolate Andrew. Put it all into Premiere Pro so I could animate it, and then also add some placeholders just to make sure that we had a rough idea of all the different environments he was going to be going through, because we were kind of basically using him, pretty standard for a music video. The singer is the kind of central character going through the world as described by the lyrics. And then we added the AI art. And so what you see here is a series of, I think, 4 or 5 layers of images that I stacked on top of each other so I could animate them separately. And so now I'll just show you a bit of the music video, if that's all right. Should I, good on sound? Okay. And so I'm just going to show you like the first 2 minutes so you can kind of see.
I've been spinning plates, and it's been this way all day and night, running through a maze of a lovesick lullaby. I distract with games, try to find a way to delay once more. As it goes on for days, when I'm lost in a holy war. Let me know what you're feeling. Let me know what you're feeling. Honesty is revealing all the feeling. Yeah. I don't really try.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there just to get back to the AI stuff, but you can see what we're going for there. And you can also maybe see why we chose to do sort of this stop animation style, because these visuals of changing locations and stuff, we were not going to be able to do just like with a video camera, because it goes to so many different locations. I'm going to go back to my slides, but just keep in mind this background here with like the Hollywood sign and stuff and this van in the background, because I'm going to reference that in a second. Let me see here. Okay. And so that was the music video we made. It was released earlier this year. And so now to focus back in on the AI side of things, because that's what you guys are going to want to use probably. So focused on Midjourney, I'm sure most of you have heard about Midjourney. There's a lot of people talking, they had to talk about it a month ago, right? And a lot of really powerful things you can do with it. And so to kind of focus on my experience with it, the pros, you can create some amazing visuals, and also there's a growing community of people who can help you figure it out when it comes to the prompts and all the stuff that you need to do to get the images you want. So just to give you a couple examples, just for fun, I typed in, imagine a beautiful sunset over a luscious jungle with a waterfall in the middle and various animals throughout, and then AR 16:9 is aspect ratio 16:9. And it gave me this, which is cool. And so you can like choose one of the four, and then you can do variations of them or stuff. But it's a really cool starting point, considering this is something that I made in, I don't know, it probably took like 30 seconds maybe. Depends on how fast or slow it's going at the time. Like I mentioned, there's community help. It's all through a Discord server, so like there's people right there live to help you, which makes it very helpful. Cons, it does have a learning curve, I have found, which is why I feel like everyone who talks about it is immediately like, here are the prompts you should use. Try this, because sometimes you can't get what you want, and it can be a little frustrating at first, which is why I mentioned the help of others. And then another con I mentioned, it does require setup on Discord. Some people don't want to get on Discord for whatever reason, but I mean, no, I use it and I like it. And sort of an example of it not giving me what I want, I find like Midjourney sometimes has trouble with really simple stuff. So like here I just wrote, imagine the horizon of the open ocean with the wide aspect ratio. So if you think about this, you're probably imagining like the horizon of, and that's it, the open ocean, right? And so this is what it gave me. It gave me 4 different things. The only one that I would say qualifies as the open ocean is the one in the bottom left with the big pirate ship, but I didn't ask for a pirate ship. And I just want to call this out because in terms of my process making this music video and AI tools in general, this is a great example of like, sometimes they save you a ton of time. Sometimes you type in a prompt and you're like maybe if I needed a shot of a jungle and those ones that came up, they might have been perfect. But when I need something simple, like I just need the horizon. That's all I want. The horizon on the open ocean. And it doesn't, it's like, oh, how about, it gives you the most dramatic version of it. And so that's just one thing to keep in mind. I remember I had some trouble at one point for the music video because the opening is in the desert. And I remember asking it in the prompt, like, I want like a bare desert floor or the valley of a desert floor, and there's just nothing. And so it showed me a desert with an old house and a distressed power line and some barrels. And I'm like, well, no house, then like add on, no house, no man-made objects. Try it again. Then it's the desert with like a cowboy walking through the middle. I'm like, okay, there's no cowboy. And it's like, these are some of the like comedic, like comedy of errors type things that happen when you're working with AI, which is okay. Like it still is a net positive, I would say. But that's just like a snapshot into my experience with it, like the good and the bad, I guess you could say. Photoshop. I love Photoshop's AI integration so much, both from its use as a designer and also like how well they did integrating it I guess, as product designers or UX designers, however you want to say. And a lot of people don't know about it, I find. A lot of people are surprised. But what I would say are the pros of it, it doesn't change my workflow at all. And it's excellent with existing material. Like if you have something you're starting with, I think Photoshop is the way to go. And so to give you an example, I mentioned it earlier, there was like one, it looked different than this, but in the music video, there was a part where Andrew is standing in this very similarly looking place. This is the album cover that happened to be made by his wife, Carmen, who has this really cool collage style of artwork that she made, and she's a really great artist. And so when I was trying to come up with the different scenes, and I had seen this artwork, it was like, oh, this would be perfect for like one of the places that Andrew's character goes through. Of course, the aspect ratio is wrong for a music video. And so I just want to walk you through like how simple this is, like for how simple Photoshop makes this kind of thing. So if I'm thinking of in my graphic designer mind, how I would approach something like this, I would normally want to do like the clone stamp tool or something similar to that just to get started. And I would probably start sampling things or copying stuff from the actual artwork and then kind of replicating it and expanding it outward to try and fill that, and then it would look bad, and then I would do iterations and iterations, and that would take me hours. What happens now, I drop the photo in there, I select the empty space, and then immediately it comes up with this thing at the bottom that has the generative fill prompt, and it has that extra little pop-up that says modify existing content, blah, blah, blah. If I clicked generative fill, then all it does is ask me one question, like, what would you like it to generate? And it's optional, which is great, because when I first stumbled upon this, I was like, I don't know what I want. Like, I want to see what you do. And so if you just click generate, this is just 2 clicks. Within, I would say 4 seconds, 5 seconds, it created that. And to me, it looks pretty cool because it's like, yeah, the text at the top is really wonky and I'll have to change that. But as like a graphic designer, this saves me so much time because it's like, great, I can start from this place and I can still edit it all I want. And if you notice at the bottom there, there's toggles with like the 1 out of 6. You can go through variations, or you can generate new variations if you want to try something else. And so I did do something very similar to this when I was making the music video, which was like, I remember just having such a great, it was like a light bulb moment, like, wow, this is going to save me so much time. Another example, so in Midjourney, before I learned how to do the aspect ratio correctly, I was using it in here. I would import the artwork and then just let Photoshop make it the right size. And so here's another example. If I have this image of, like, this was in Midjourney, I typed in the Milky Way, and then I bring it into Photoshop and generative fill, and it's like, I mean, to me it looks like it was always made that way. And then one last example, which I think is maybe applicable to some people. Here's a famous piece of art. This is The Old Guitarist by Pablo Picasso. So what if I want to do something, I don't know, I'm thinking like if someone's doing more immersive style art or something, and you want to expand upon an existing piece. I just throw it in here and have it fill in the rest of the space. And like, it looks pretty cool to me. Like, I don't know what I would use this for, but someone might be able to use this for something. And like, if you look on like the left side, it added like a little table and stuff. Like it has some really cool things here that it can do for existing pieces of media that you might import into it. And I just, again, want to call out that generative fill at the bottom, it only takes like 1 or 2 clicks. Like, it's such a time saver, even if you want to change it later. And just to touch on the cons of the Photoshop AI thing, I have found that you can create things from scratch there, just like in Midjourney. I found that it wasn't as good as Midjourney in the past, but I added this caveat that that may be changing, because I've noticed in the last month or so it is better than it used to be. So just to show you some examples, the same prompt that I used before for Midjourney of the luscious jungle and the waterfall, like, gave me this, which I could point out some things that are wrong with it, like the animals are not anatomically correct, and there's some weird things going on at the top of the waterfall. But, you know, it's pretty good considering it took 3 seconds to make. Again, and this was an interesting one, actually. Examples of visuals, the horizon of the open ocean. I tried this in Photoshop. This one actually gave me what I wanted the first time. So this might just be something to think about, like when you're exploring visual tools with AI, Photoshop might actually be able to give you some of the simpler ones. But anyways, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, like, what does AI even mean? I don't think automation is wrong. I put calculator in here partly because I think that this is a funny AI calculator, because all the numbers are wrong, all the buttons are wrong. It's like, just kind of shows, like, you know, it's still trying. But this is going back to how I was saying, like, it can be such a mysterious thing. I view it kind of as a calculator. If you told me to do like 10,000, 38, 500, whatever, if you give me two big numbers and said multiply them together, I wouldn't be able to do it. But with a calculator, I can. And I think that's kind of how it is with a lot of these AI tools, at least today. It's like, yeah, maybe someday things will get crazy. But right now, it's just sort of like the next step in the evolution of technology. Another big thing I want to stress that I have noticed, there is a big difference. Like those who know versus those who don't, I don't think that's a real thing to think about. As soon as I started using the tools, it was clear that when people talk about AI, there's the people, it's not the people who know and the people who don't know. It's the people who have actually tried using it and the people who have never tried using it. The people who have never tried using it will just tell you about, oh, it'll be able to do everything, and you can't even imagine how good it'll be. Versus the people who try, there's something there. There's like these small steps you can take in your day-to-day life, and actually, like Tom's presentation, it's like, clearly he's used it, because he's like, here are all the things you can do with it. These are like actionable steps you can take. How can I design AI tools? This was a big aha moment for me as well. I really like to keep things simple, and when it comes to designing any sort of digital product, for those of you who are not UX designers or product designers, although I'm sure many of you are, I really highly value user flows, task flows, any sort of flow, because I think it is kind of the quintessential point in the designing process where it's like, how well are you solving the problem? Like, if you're just thinking about features and you're adding all these steps for the user, are you really helping them, or are you making it more difficult for them? And so I think for me personally, going forward, it's like, this is what I'm shooting for. It's what is the flow that someone is already doing, and can I just take a couple steps away with AI? That's all I'm looking for. I'm keeping it simple. Or on the flip side, like I said, if there was a flow, like for example, if I was to make the music video without AI, I think it would have, if you were to write out all the steps of all the things I would have had to do, I think maybe it would have been 10,000 steps, and maybe I would not have been able to do it on my own, but because of the AI tools, I was able to narrow it down to a few hundred steps. And what to avoid. This is a big thing too. This is where my mind goes to as a product designer. Like, if you take an existing user flow and you remove 2 steps, but then you add 3 because the user has to go back and correct the work that the AI did, then was it really worth it? Not really. And so I think that's what we have to avoid as we design new products, is making sure that they're a net positive and we're not just creating new issues for the user down the line. So just a couple last things, suggestions in case you haven't already tried this stuff. Just ChatGPT, Gemini, for any how do I blank. Anything you're doing, it's like, how should I do this? How should I prepare my resume? How should I if I need to make a pie, what do you recommend? Not because I think it's going to give you the best answer, but because it's a great way to just get your hands dirty and start seeing what it's good at. For example, I mentioned programming here. I am a bad programmer. I have hired contractors in the past to help me out with stuff because it's like, I just can't figure out this dang bug. I don't have to do that as much anymore because now I can go on Gemini and be like, hey, Gemini, I have a question in Swift UI. Can you help me debug it? Here's the error. And they'll be like, yeah, try this code. This is what's wrong. Amazing. So whatever your problems are, I would just encourage you to try, even if you think it's not going to help you. AI art for stock photography, I'm very much on board with what Tom was talking about with using the imagery for telling the story of your users. There's another project I'm working on right now where that's literally what I'm doing. It's like I'm just focusing on the story now rather than like, charts and all that. Try using voice commands. If you haven't already seen it, there's a few people on YouTube who have used AI. They have bundled things together to recreate Jarvis from Iron Man, if you all are familiar, but Jarvis is the AI that Tony Stark uses, and people have recreated that. It's pretty amazing. So there's some really cool stuff out there. Share your experiences with others, and always be polite to AI tools in case they take over. Always say please and thank you. Just in case, you never know, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, I appreciate it, and that's it. Here's the key information in case anyone wants to link up with me, or if you want to check out the music by Andrew, or check out other artwork by Carmen. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Do we have questions for John? No? Okay, John, I saw a lot of tools, a lot of AI tools. I didn't see one about AI video, like Runway.
Yeah.
Why that?
So the project, when we started the project, it was like December 2022. So I don't even know if there was any public access. There was just like demos. But I still do stuff with Andrew, and we've been talking about that because it's like, well, you can definitely do something with it. And actually, I think that would actually be another good thing for product designers, UX designers for personas, because eventually I think where it's all going is eventually when you are pitching a product to someone, you'll just make a movie of people using it. And I think that's where it's going. So I want to use that stuff. But
that's great. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff with people generating images on Midjourney and then animating them in Runway. Cool. So if you had to do that again now, what would you do differently?
Well, now that it's over, I would not do it again the same way I did it.
Right.
And I think this is a key thing that a lot of people, not me, have said that, there was a big learning curve in using the AI tools. Like, for example, when I was using Midjourney a lot, I was kind of when I went down this road, I was kind of expecting it to be a lot easier. I was like, well, if I can think of a prompt and it makes sense to me, I should be able to get what I want. And that wasn't always the case. Sometimes I really had to put in a lot of work. But I think, so I would do other projects moving forward, or just do smaller projects moving forward, just to lower the stress or just get it done quicker. But I think someone online was talking about how it's a lot of work right now to experiment with these tools, and sometimes they aren't worth it. But the people who put in the time now are going to be the ones who benefit the most when it is all sorted out. Like 2-3 years from now, when people say, okay, here's a clear checklist of all the ways you can use AI, and everyone's doing it, and it's proven to help you in your careers and make more money. By the time that happens, I believe the people who are going to be taking advantage of it the most are going to be the people who started now. So So I guess yes and no. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you all.
Cool.
Yeah.
No more questions? No? Okay. Let's give John a round of applause. Thank you,
you.
John. It was great.
Sweet. Thank you.
All right, and we are almost done. Cool. So if you want to know more about our events, please don't hesitate to follow us on social media. And now it's about the community open mic. Do we have anyone who wants to share something to the community? Anyone is hiring? Anyone is looking for a job? Anyone has a joke? Like, no, nothing? Okay, I'm gonna start. I have something to say. This is a workshop we are running with Tom. So if you are interested in UX design and building your own AI persona, please scan the QR code. It's gonna be on February 7 in this place. And as you can see, Tom had a lot of great insights for building AI user persona. All right, and that's it for tonight. So thank you all for attending. We're gonna start networking very soon. I can see Sasha went downstairs to pick up the pizzas, so he's gonna be here, and it's gonna be hot, so that's good. Cool, thank you all.